It is estimated that 3 out of 4 people do not understand the real impact the food we eat has on our health. Our dietary choices have been affected by the marketing of huge corporations of the food industry that teach us that what we eat is not the issue, but the quantity we choose to eat. We have all been lied to. Not only is some food bad for you, but it is also extremely important to understand how we are eating wrong. Would you believe me if I told you there was a way you could lose weight, improve your health, greatly reduce risk of diabetes and other diseases without changing nutrition? Thanks to what I'm about to show you, a French woman with a master in biochemistry was able to eliminate PCOS, get rid of cravings, improve the energy levels, and even reverse type 2 diabetes in hundreds of her patients. In this video, I will explain to you how you have eaten wrong your entire life, the effect high blood glucose has on your health, and how to fix your blood sugar in 5 simple steps. If we really want to understand the negative effects some food have on us, we must first understand how glucose gets digested before entering our bloodstream. So plants use the water in the soil and in the air to produce glucose through a process called photosynthesis. Fruits, leaves, and even the roots all have glucose, and plants can choose to use it to grow or break it down for energy. When the photosynthesis is not an option, plants store the glucose in long chains called starch, with the help of some enzymes. Some plants can then use different enzymes to produce fiber they store in the leaves, the branches, or the trunks to grow tall without falling. Other plants even convert glucose into fructose to store it in fruits by increasing the concentration by more than 2 times, so that they become irresistible to animals, which will eat them and carry the plant seed with the feces to ensure the continuation of the species. So glucose has always been humans' prioritized energy source, and we get it by eating one of 4 elements, either starch, fiber, glucose, or sucrose. When we eat this, we effectively break them down and we convert them back to glucose so that our cell can utilize them. So we can break down starch with some enzymes that the plant use that are present in our saliva and our gut. Sucrose instead is broken into half glucose and half fructose. Fructose, on the other hand, cannot be broken down and it can be stored only as fat, while fibers pass through our small intestine slowly without being torn apart, because they cannot be digested by the body. So all this process seems very natural, but what makes then our diets so dangerous? The problem with today's nutrition is that products in the supermarket have their content of fiber removed and replaced with sugar and starch because this prolongs their longevity on the shelves. The fact that fruits and vegetables cannot typically be preserved for so long is due to the presence of fiber. So packaged products are also filled with sugar because it also increases the releases of dopamine, which is quite literally the hormone that causes addiction. So our body was always supposed to obtain glucose from plants because they are rich in fiber, which naturally slows down the absorption of glucose. But if we eat more glucose than we need, it is stored away in the muscles and in the fat. And then, when we cannot anymore access glucose, the body converts the stored fat in the liver into glucose in a process called ketosis. So let's say you were monitoring your blood sugar with a blood level monitor. As you eat throughout the day without paying attention to what and how you eat, the level of glucose in your blood keeps oscillating up and down. Once the glucose increases beyond 1.7 millimoles per liter over the baseline, a rapid increase in blood sugar occurs, followed by a rapid increase in insulin. This event is something known as a blood or glucose spike. On average, 9 out of 10 people experience anything between 3 and 6 spikes per day, but unconsciously experience the effect of this roller coaster without being able to determine the real cause. Some people actually develop life-threatening diseases and often die as a consequence of experiencing the spikes consistently. So the main problem here is partly the nutrition, but also that people do not really understand the real effect of high glucose has on their health. So what about you? Yes, you. How many spikes have you experienced today? Do you know if actually your lunch or breakfast really affected your body and caused a spike? Are you even aware of what foods cause a glucose spike? And if you're not so sure about the answer, maybe you might want to stick around to find out how foods affect your blood sugar. Here is how it works. So our cells are powered by something called the mitochondria. Mitochondria uses glucose to create energy to function. When we spike, we give the mitochondria more glucose that it can consume. We overwhelm it, and they stop functioning properly. At the same time, the body increases the release of insulin to store the excess glucose in fats around the body. The spike of glucose and insulin releases harmful molecules called free radicals in a process that is called glycation. To make it simple, glycation produces toxic molecules that destroy everything they touch by modifying the DNA of healthy cells, creating harmful mutations that make us age faster and are leading cause to inflammation. Ideally, the body has to deal with only a few free radicals, but with constant and consistent spikes, the body can no longer fight them and goes into a state of oxidative stress. In such a state, the mitochondria is unable to process the glucose efficiently. That means we gain weight, our cells start to die, we become tired, and this can also trigger diabetes and organ dysfunctions in some extreme cases. Insulin spikes also block the reception of leptin and ghrelin, our hunger signals, leading to constant cravings and addiction to glucose, which makes sweet foods even more appealing in our head. But the mitochondria exhaustion doesn't starve only the body, but the brain too. It causes brain fog, anxiety, mood swings, and in some cases, outright depression. And these are only the short-term effects of glucose spikes that only temporarily disable the immune system. If your glucose is chronically elevated and you continuously have spikes, your immune system effectively stops working, and you will be susceptible to inflammations, infections, and immunosuppressive disorders. Free radicals also disrupt your collagen and cartilage and are one of the main causes of arthritis. And when cells become then too damaged, they can actually turn malignant and become cancerous cells. Or they can also elect to die, which also causes degradation of the neurons, leading to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, and even other neurological disorders. So this is actually why it's so important to know what you eat and why it is so surprising that nobody teaches us how the food affects our body. Luckily, there are ways that we can mitigate the damage and prevent all of this from happening. All you need to do is curb your glucose spikes. The premise being, the fewer the spikes, the flatter our glucose levels. Now, does that mean you will have to stop eating some foods or start a new diet? No, not at all. As a matter of fact, you can eliminate your glucose spikes in 5 simple ways without changing what you eat. You want to know how? Well, the first way to flatten glucose level is to eat food in the right order. Now, what do I mean by that? That means we can eat the same things, but by changing the order of what we eat, we can have a massive impact on our health. Anybody can effectively reduce their glucose spike by even 73% and their insulin spike by 50% with just this one rule. According to some studies, this can have as much of an impact as taking diabetes medication, and this stands true for everybody, not just diabetic people. The right order to eat food is the following: fibers first, fats and protein second, and starch and sugar last. That is because while starches and sugar get to the small intestine quickly and are immediately injected in the bloodstream causing a spike, the fiber is not broken down and it reduces the effectiveness of the enzyme that breaks down the food, so it is digested more slowly, creating also a viscous mesh that makes it harder for our glucose to reach the bloodstream. This means we should always eat fibers first and sugar and fruits last, because they also contain fructose, which are plain concentrated sugars, and we have to avoid eating sweets, cereals, breads, or carbohydrates at the beginning of the meal. But what if carbohydrates constitute my whole meal? this brings us to the second hack for flattening our glucose levels, which is by simply adding a salad or a non-saturated fat or a protein at the beginning of your meal. Whatever is available to you. Eat a few cherry tomatoes, some boiled green beans, or even some cucumbers in the morning. When you don't have fiber, start eating a piece of avocado, some peanuts, almonds, a slice of cheese, or some eggs. You might think that adding calories to your meal will actually make it harder for you to lose weight and negatively impact your health, but studies have proved otherwise. As a matter of fact, a study in 2017 by the University of Michigan proved that people with lower blood sugar lose weight more easily and have more energy overall. So these two rules can actually make most of the heavy lifting, but they're not always doable. For example, you cannot carry food around you when you go to eat outside, and you shouldn't, which is why the third way to lower your blood sugar is to look for alternatives when possible. When you eat bread, for example, you can look for alternatives that contain more fibers, such as dark pumpernickel, that causes a spike to be 35% smaller. When you buy some nut cream, buy the sugarless one. When you eat yogurt, choose the Greek one. And remember that even adding fats and proteins on top of your carbohydrates will massively curb the spike. So maybe add some avocado to the bread, or ham, or salad, tomatoes, or even cheese. Now, the fourth way to lower your blood sugar is quite surprising. Research has shown that ingestion of any kind of vinegar before a meal reduces the glucose spike by up to 30%, even if it is eaten for up to 20 minutes after a meal. This is because vinegar naturally slows down the enzyme that converts food into glucose. Vinegar can be added as a dressing in the salad, or it can even be drunk in a glass mixed with some water. Now, the fifth and last way to lower your blood sugar levels is to do some activity within 70 minutes after completing a meal, because that is when the glucose spikes will reach the highest peak. That means that any activity, even just walking 10 minutes, can reduce the severity of the spike by up to 35%, because the mitochondria will naturally burn more energy and will therefore burn more glucose. Now, as I said, with these 5 simple rules. Lena, how do you spell the surname of this lady? Inchauspe. Inchauspe. With these 5 simple rules, Jessie Inchauspé, a master's degree in biochemistry from Georgetown University, was able to reverse type 2 diabetes, cure PCOS, and improve the overall life of millions of people throughout the globe. Her discoveries are truly amazing, and they are contained in this book that she published called The Glucose Revolution. Now, I have read this book and I honestly, sincerely recommend it to you, because the studies of this book have been tested on large groups of hundreds of people, which means that regardless of your individual metabolism, food rituals, or body weight, this book can and will help you. You can read this book also because it contains a plenitude of recipes and food combinations so that you can keep a low blood sugar while still enjoying your meals. So next time you feel hungry, remember, you can always follow these 5 easy steps to become in charge of your health, and you can do it without ruining your meal. Now, life is not only about eating, of course. If you really want to take control of your life and you really want to take a massive leap forward towards success, all you need to do is click on this other video and learn habits that can make you rich.